Are you a scaling SaaS founder?
Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel Podcast, where we handle summer heat like we handle deadlines. Staying cool, popping open some ice-cold creativity, and occasionally taking a dive in the pool of innovation. Well, I hope you had a fantastic Father's Day and are staying cool this week. Get crazy out there. But hey, if you're looking for cooler weather, they're expecting 12 inches of snow in Montana. So, that's always an option to head that way. Well, I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I hope B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. Do you know that your business can excel at solving client business problems and also make a huge impact in the world? Well, let's explore running a company that's not only about profits, but also about purpose. Ready to turn that entrepreneurial dream into a force for good? Let's dive in. One of the biggest challenges for businesses today is finding a way to create a positive impact on society while maintaining growth rates and being profitable. It's a tough balance to strike. You're busy, you have 1,000 things to do all the time, everybody wants your attention, and many entrepreneurs fear that focusing on social responsibility might divert resources and attention and time and focus, everything else away from core business objectives. But I think the reality is that integrating your social impact into your business model can drive long-term success and foster deeper connections with your customers. But how do you make it work? How can you ensure that your business thrives while making a meaningful difference? Let's talk about some specific strategies for building a business model that also prioritizes social responsibility and making a difference, along with making money, profit, and purpose. First, we want to identify a cause that resonates with your values and aligns with your business mission. The alignment ensures authenticity and makes it easier to integrate those social initiatives into your operations. Choose something that really matters to you and your team. Don't just pick at random, but I suppose random is better than nothing if you need a place to start. But you really want it to resonate with you and who you are as a company. Next, embed this purpose into your company culture. Encourage your team to participate in community service, offer products or services that address social issues, and ensure that every business decision reflects your commitment to giving back. Also, you can partner with nonprofits or other organizations to amplify your impact. I think that's one of the best ways to do it. Don't go start your own thing. Maybe if that's really what you want to do. But for most entrepreneurs, what we want to do is find somebody that is doing something awesome, who needs resources that we can provide, whether that's money or time or people or whatever it is, and we can amplify that impact along with them. So do that, amplify the impact with other organizations. And those types of collaborations can provide lots of resources, credibility, and opportunities for you and for greater outreach, greater visibility in the community. Lastly, measure and communicate your impact. This is sometimes hard to do because we don't want to sound like we're bragging about the good things we're doing in the world. But you kind of have to in order to get other people excited about that, and because they want to be involved too. And if you don't, you take away that opportunity for them to participate. So use metrics to track your contributions. Share those results with your stakeholders. Get your customers involved. Show them the impact they're making by working with you, and show them the impact you're making together. People love working with brands they feel good about, and transparency not only builds trust, but also inspires others to join a cause. And you want that anyway, because it's something that resonates with you. Remember back to number one, it has to be something that comes from the inside out. I think the pivotal moment comes when you realize that by aligning your business goals with a higher purpose, you can create a win-win-win for your company, your customers, and the community. And this alignment transforms your business from a mere profit-making entity into a movement that people want to be a part of, which feeds that profit-making entity, which creates a bigger community, which feeds the profit-making entity. Customers today are more conscious and prefer to support brands that stand for something and stand for something meaningful, stand for something that they stand for. And by integrating social good into your business model, you attract loyal customers, motivated employees, and even investors who share your vision. This triple bottom line approach, people, planet, profit, ensures sustainable growth and makes your business a catalyst for positive change. To sum up, building a business that changes the world and gives back is not only possible, but can also be incredibly rewarding personally and financially. If you're doing it already, and many of the founders in my world are all in on this, thank you for making a difference. And if this is a new idea for you, or you're on the fence, you've been thinking about it, it's like something I ought to do, but I don't know how, I encourage you to take the first step on this journey to purposeful entrepreneurship and watch as your business thrives while making a lasting impact. Our expert last week was Osri Cohen, fractional CTO. We talked about fractional tech guidance, technical recruiting and screening so you can really tell if somebody is great or full of it, and how not to be taken advantage of by outsourced dev teams, especially if you aren't technical yourself like me. Our founder last Tuesday was Masoud Alabash, founder and CEO of Amadeus and Zebatech. We talked about the future of human and machine communications in SaaS, how AI is revolutionizing product and project management. If you missed either one of those episodes, go back and give them a listen. My guest today is Jeremy Lessaris, founder and CEO of Payment Brokers. It's a fintech using AI and machine learning to revolutionize negotiations with credit card processors. Pretty cool stuff. Jeremy has over 2 decades of leadership in industrial, energy, transportation, health tech, fintech. How about that? He has built multiple companies and led 8 to successful exits, including Design.co. And he even rang the NASDAQ opening bell. His journey is awesome, and his vision for the future is even better. Welcome to the future, Jeremy Lessaris. Hey, Jeremy, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Great to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background. You've built multiple companies, sold, and continuing to build some pretty awesome stuff. Yeah, how did you get to where you are today? What was that journey?
Yeah, I was the king of side hustle. So I had a great career. I loved building stuff. So I did it on the side. I had a career in marketing and communications. I ended up becoming a global vice president for a very large manufacturing firm. And while I was doing that, I was just side hustling. I was building small applications. I was doing e-commerce development. And those turned into both software and other outside companies that were successful. And it was a lot of juggling of multiple things simultaneously. And I would exit those companies as other opportunities started coming up. So I built and sold 8 companies now to date, but they're not always great. It's not always when people say exit, I think people think, wow, that's amazing. You built and sold 8 companies. They're not always great exit stories. Some of them were out of necessity. Some of them were really good. There were definitely companies that I feel I was at the point where it was going past what I could offer the company, and I still had a career. So I couldn't necessarily just jump out of what I was building for myself and my career. And so some of those exits were just really good timing. Others were more just operational. So over time, I recognized where I added value to companies, and it wasn't in the day-to-day ops. So I recognize I'm not like a great operator in terms of things, but I love building. So I think for me, I'm more ideation, creativity, get to revenue, get to profitability, and find operators who obviously see bigger value in what I had built. And so I've done that successfully several times. And now my focus has shifted away from building for building's sake. I think I have a little bit more purpose in now the things that I'm wanting to build because I have a little bit more capacity. I don't have my full-time job and career anymore after several exits. And I think now I'm really focused on what do I want to build and why am I building it? So it's been a long journey of discovery for myself, but I think I found where I fit really well now.
That's great. And how has that changed over time? Have you done multiple? And I love just the realization of you're a builder, not an operator. And how is the purpose and just how you build, how has that evolved through the journey?
Right. So if you look at all the industries I've been in, you'd be like, how did you end up in marine, industrial, e-commerce, payments, fintech? It's all over the place. But a lot of it was necessity for my own. I mean, I think we all do this, right? You see something and you go, somebody needs to do that. There's a gap.
Yes.
So even in your day-to-day operation, I do it all the time. And I've been told to stop doing this. Like, hey, that's a business. Let's go do it. And then I'm like, full throttle, let's go build it. I think often we find massive gaps in our day-to-day operations. And when you're running a company, when you're building a company and why aren't people doing this thing? Then I go look and there's no company, nothing exists. Seems to be profitable. And so I started down the path of let's solve all these problems along the way and turn them into businesses. So it was a natural progression into certain elements. Now I was dragged into a couple other companies, so I can't say that they were all my idea, but I would say that a lot of them were necessity builds that helped support things I was doing. My last company was called Design.co, and I would look at all of the companies I spun out. The first thing I need, branding, design, website, marketing materials, right? So I had an internal agency, which years ago I called Original Click. We were more of a web development company, but it was really to support my crazy ideas. So I think the evolution of building things to solve challenges my companies had. Most everything I did was B2B, with the exception of we built a technology that's used in all marine applications for speed control, totally separate industry, more hardware focused than software focused. But all of those were really just necessity. My original focus was always revenue and profitability. That was really all I cared about. I was building things because I knew I could make money doing it. And I think as I've grown up and I've gotten a little bit more time under my belt of operating, I think it's more purpose driven. So now my organizations and things that I'm focusing energy on really tie back to the roots of where I came from and have more of a purpose led mission rather than for profit's sake alone. Don't get me wrong, they all make money. So it's not about doing this
Sure.
for free. But also, I think it does have a bit more heart involved in what I'm trying to build moving forward. And a lot of that is giving back to the community, trying to reduce expenses for other startups and entrepreneurs and small to medium sized companies where I had challenges. So those are the types of things I'm building today, where before it was really just survivalist, make more money, make more profit. This looks like a good idea because it has a lot of money attached to it. So I guess my thesis of what I'm focused on building has dynamically changed over the years. So that's where I'm at today.
I love that. And I definitely want to talk about purpose building, but I had a question about what you said just about building the companies. You're really focused on profitability and getting to market. And a lot of founders, especially first time founders, I think are really a lot more obsessed with product and the thing rather than the distribution of the thing and monetizing it. Was that a shift that you made, or was that something that you thought about from the very beginning? Is it's not so much about building the best widget ever, but it's how do we get that to market? How do we get it out there and profitable and making money?
This is a tough question because when you go to raise capital, which I really am not a big advocate of raising money, but
Me neither.
as an investor myself in small companies, I buy people who are just laser focused on product. I don't buy into business models. Anybody can lay out a really great spreadsheet of how a business mechanics should work. But
Right.
people who are passionate about product because they really want to deliver value, that actually has a place. And I understand why these founders are so focused on product. But there is a point when you have to sell what you have. And I think sometimes good enough is a really hard pill to swallow for a founder. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
The last thing I need to hear is that's good enough. Let's go. But there's a point where, like, when the runway is coming to an end, product, like people are still focused on product, your runway is coming to an end. So there's probably a point where founders do have to look at it and say, it's good enough. Time to ship, right? I don't want to ship a bad product. I don't want people to jump off a cliff and build the airplane on the way down. But there is a blend of those, right? You do have to get to market, and voice of customer is big. So even if you have to put the product in market, charge less and say, we're in beta, right? We
Yeah.
need to learn what our product can do and why people use it. I don't know how many features I built in software companies that I've grown that never got used, that I thought were the most important.
100%.
Let's all this UI, let's spend all this time and user experience of this feature and development, and we launch it and no one uses it. And I'm like, what
Yeah.
happened? Why did we build that? I really thought I knew the voice of the market. I'm talking to companies, I'm screening. So I think reality check is MVP is important to get to market. And the second you do that, your company will morph more towards the direction of use and adoption of those features, and people will beg you for them. I found that early on that I had really good adoption, and one of the a company called iReview, which I sold several years ago, was an online reputation management software. And I was so laser focused on all these features of managing your online reviews and Yelp and TripAdvisor and all these things. And was the voice of customer that came back and said, we need help managing the reviews, like responding to them. I wasn't listening to that. I wanted to build like analytics and reporting and all these other dashboards, when in reality, had I started down the path of automated responses to negative and medium reviews, that would have been way more valuable. But I just didn't listen to the voice of the customer. I was so product focused on what I wanted and not necessarily what the customer wanted. So I would always tell first time entrepreneur, founder led companies, go build what your customers want. First, you have to have customers.
Right.
So get to market. The sooner you can, the better. Don't wait and perfect. I'm a big proponent of like beta. If you have to put it out in beta and say it's going to be $99 a month, but we need test customers at $20 a month to learn, do it. The faster to revenue, the better. Revenue solves a lot of problems.
Yes, it does. Really end up building a much better product because you're building along with, instead of building in a vacuum and then hoping that it's going to be used. And I've been in the same boat that you described. Built all this stuff and it's like, I think it's awesome. And customers are going, yeah, that's fine. But really, we want to solve this problem over here.
Yeah. And it's not that they know either, right? You solve it for 1 or 10, and they're like, okay,
Yeah.
that's not actually the problem. Right. So now we have a new problem. So
Right.
these things are ever changing. And that's why spending so much time upfront perfecting is never a great idea. I'm not saying that you shouldn't put a lot of time and effort and energy into product. I just don't think it's everything. It's really voice of customer after that anyway. Companies that start in one direction end up in another. That's what happened with one of my latest ventures, payment brokers. We were a credit card processing company. We were doing e-commerce development for large B2B applications. And we recognized the gap, like, hey, there's no real B2B payment space integrator for all these ERP systems from e-commerce. So we started doing that years ago. And the industry morphed, and we tried to morph with it. I ended up selling the assets out of that company years ago, 2015 or 16. I sold that company, and we only sold the assets out of it, which was really just a book of business for credit card processing. When I started thinking about what we were doing, we morphed completely the opposite way to trying to help people reduce expenses and not switch their credit card processing relationships. So the company morphed because I really listened to myself personally. We were obviously, when we would start a new company, with the knowledge base that I had, which is somewhat proprietary, I was like, hey, I know how to go set up really low cost processing. Why wouldn't I help other people do negotiations with their existing vendors? And we built a machine learning tool to do that. So the company morphed from being a traditional processor to really fighting credit card processing fees. So it's a really unique morph. But again, listen to the voice of the customer. People needed help. Small and medium business was getting crushed. I saw a $50 billion a year problem. It's closer to $108 billion. I believe $50 billion of it is addressable. So I said, let's go help people instead of let's go sell more credit card processing. I'm just of the opinion that there's a lot more that you can do to help people with their existing relationships. So again, things change dynamically over time with the companies. So the faster you can get to market with what you have, the better.
Yes. Really smart. So what advice, you said you're not big on funding, but you fund companies and I do as well. And I'm really in that same boat. Taking money or too much money early is not necessarily a good thing. How do you balance that? What do you recommend that companies do to get to market and to get to a point where they're profitable and growing and can grow to a good exit?
Yeah, this question gets asked a lot. And I think I see variations of answers to this because I'm also an investor myself. So I get it. There are companies that need money. Like there's no way
Sure.
around it. There are ideas that require, especially high technology companies that need tons of cash. AI wouldn't exist without tons of cash, right?
Right.
So I think there are definitely models where it's required. But for the rest of the world, like 99.9% of every other company, bootstrapping is key. So I'm a huge proponent of bootstrapping. And some guys will just tell you, there's no way I can bootstrap. I need enough money to get this off the ground. Then you need to find a micro business inside your business to fund it. Or do what I
Yes.
did, side hustle. Sell an ebook about the topic of what you're going to, and while you're doing it, you're building up a customer list, right? Put it out in beta and say, we're charging X to solve problems in the short term. Be a consultant to the industry. Like there's a million ways to solve the problems without software. And
Yeah.
maybe you might have patch solutions that you can charge people for. Or, like I said, even an ebook that helps people walk through the problem you're trying to solve. What you're doing is making a name for yourself in the industry. You're starting to be a thought leader in it. You might actually build up a community doing whatever you're doing. You could create Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups to then continue to build that up. And although it may not be really the business you want to be in, it starts to fund the development of your MVP. And like I
Right.
said, I would just as soon have an MVP that has a 50,000 customer waiting list or email list than one that's like, hey, I think I have a good idea. I need millions of dollars to get this thing off the ground. I've
100%.
never gone to market. I have no idea what the demand looks like. I'm all for funding someone who's like, I have 50,000 people that want it and I have their emails and they've said, yes, I'd spend $99 a month to do it. You need money. I think
Yeah.
you'd probably jump at that too.
Of
so,
course.
so, so I think getting that in front of people first is just as important as going to raise capital. Now, there is a place for capital, but I think people need to understand the capital stack that they're targeting and be very mindful of the predatory practices of a lot of these advisory groups and accelerators and really expensive programs trying to help people get funding. It's just I feel like it's like wading through so much garbage information that isn't real. And
Yes.
a lot of founders end up in bad situation because they found, hey, I found this accelerator and it's $20,000. Like, oh my God, you don't need $20,000 to get your idea off the ground. But and look, I think mentors and consulting is absolutely key. People should invest in those things. It's really hard to find the right one. So I think that's the real hurdle is finding these non-predatory, like if they're posting Lamborghinis and private jets and saying, hey, I can help you raise a bunch of capital, probably don't want to follow those ones. Not saying
Right.
that they can't help you, but it's usually down the wrong path. Ones that have owned SaaS companies and built things and been successful with it, I'm more apt to saying maybe they can help you. It's worth the investment to have those type of advisory as you start doing any kind of fundraising. Angel investors are great. You get into the PE and VC and that kind of world, it's really difficult. And you need to be armed with a really good group of people to make that function and work if you don't want to end up losing your idea. And most founders have one. So it's not like they have 100 different ideas ready to go to market with. So they get one
Right.
shot at this. So take your time, make the right decision, find a good advisory or consulting that can help you through the process and just be wary of the overnight, hey, we can raise $20 million for you. It's usually not realistic.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's tough. And we've seen a number of people go through some accelerators and things, and they come out, and in the beginning, they're just looking for a tiny bit to get the business off the ground, and they come out 3 months later, and now they've got these big, ideas of my company's now worth $20 million. Really?
It's
How did
only
that
willing
happen?
with some, yeah, it's only willing, it's only worth what someone is willing to pay for it. That's for sure. I think
Yeah.
valuation numbers have gotten out of hand. just my 2 cents on it is I see companies now like the assumption that immediately they're 20x valuation or pre-revenue they're worth 30x. X of what?
Right.
Like forecasted
30x of
numbers. Like,
zero is still zero.
yeah. I
Put
can
whatever
do that
multiple
math.
you want on it.
Yeah. So I think bootstrapping is, I really believe in it. I think there's a micro
Yes.
business in every business. So I think there's a way to get to revenue quickly. And it may not be what they want to do. And I feel like everybody's at a race to, it needs to happen so fast. And when I start breaking into the reason, people are in such a hurry to get to market. Somebody's going to come to market sooner. It's like that does happen.
Yeah.
But if you have a better product, you'll still win. If you have a better
Right.
solution and you're not funded by 50 people who are hounding profitability day one and don't have to have the runway discussion, like it's a much better environment to grow in. It's much healthier and you end up keeping your company instead of, I think people, even great ideas happen. People, I see it all the time, but they're unicorn deals where somebody has an idea pre-revenue, they go raise a bunch of money and somehow they're still a founder of the company. That's very rare. I
It
mean,
is.
it's people win the lottery more. So
Yes, it's
or
true.
get struck by lightning more than these
Yeah.
deals you hear about. And it sucks because you probably follow these tech forums or TechCrunch or somebody posted and you're like, oh man, they raised like $60 million. And I don't think people know what that environment feels like. You now have a job and it's a lot of work. So I think this is also part of my new thesis of how I do things. It's got to fit in my lifestyle. I have to have a little bit of balance here. I did the wake up at 2 a.m. and work till 2 a.m. for 20 years. And I feel like it's a very unhealthy environment
Mhm.
because now it's just rise and grind. That's such a bad mental attitude to like people are
It is.
burning themselves. I'm not saying that you don't have to put in the work. You do. Like there is
Yes.
definitely grind time. You got to learn a lot of stuff. There's a million hats you have to wear, but if people did this more mindfully, it's a lot more fun to build something you enjoy doing than just grinding through it. I don't mind. I still get up early. I'm still at it at 5:30 in the morning every day. I don't have to. Actually excited to get up and do it. It's like going on vacation for me. So to me, I'm sure other entrepreneurs have this sickness, but I want to get involved in it. I want to do all these things, but there's got to be a balance. You got to have the downtime. It's good to recharge. It's good to do it thoughtfully and not have that crazy amount of pressure to perform. It's so much easier when you don't have to. So
Yes.
it's definitely something I wish founders would do more often. But I also understand I was on the other side of the fence, like in the survivalist mentality, trying to get things up and going as fast as possible. Everybody just needs to slow down and also not focus on revenue. Everybody should focus on the bottom line. I see
Yes.
so much of this like top line growth focused organizations. I'm like, well, how much money did you make? Well, we didn't. Okay. I'm not saying that you can't be a massive company and still not have profit like Amazon or others, but that's also a very different game to play of constantly raising capital and end up being a public company. And there's a lot more to it.
Yes, there is. I'm always baffled. Companies will raise and have a conversation. It's been 5 years. Like, oh, we're raising our E round. Like, is that a thing?
It is.
Is there some profit in here somewhere? Yeah, somewhere along the way.
Speculative growth, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
hey, we have a new toy to go build. I say that a lot now with what I see happening with AI and the fact that Tesla came out right after earnings were not really where they wanted to be. And the next thing they say is we shouldn't be looked at as a car company, we're an AI company. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then the stock goes wild the next day, which it was down yesterday, significant. Well, not significant, but they lost a lot of what they gained the first day. But it's like, hey, look over here. We're building something else now. Hey, we're not
Yeah.
going to ship trucks, but hey, we're an AI company. So everybody's like super excited again. That's not really the game you want to be in. That's more of a publicly traded speculative growth environment to be in.
Sure.
Founders need to really focus on just getting to profitability so that they have sustainable growth, not, hey, we're growing 30% year over year. It's like, are you making money doing it? Well, we have all this NRE, all this engineering expense to build these things to continue that growth, it's like it's not sustainable then. At some point, you're going to hit this runway problem that all these startups have, and that's why they fail. Find a business line that can be sustainably profitable. Focus on it. Let that grow. Take a percentage of it and invest in your NRE, right? Your non-reoccurring expenses, and then you can
Mhm.
grow from that. Not let's spend 120% of it, which is what I see. And I get it. I understand why,
Yeah.
but I think everybody's just in a hurry.
Yeah. Well, that's been the narrative that's really been pushed by the industry for the last, 5 years certainly, or 10 years, is it's growth at all costs, and if you have to get to market and you've got to capture market share, it's all that matters. Because if you don't get it now, then you're never going to. And I don't think that's necessarily the case.
There's I'm sure everybody's heard of Basecamp. It's like
Yes.
yeah, what a great story. A guy
Love
was
them.
bottom line up growth,
Yep.
slow grow, super sustainable. Hey, listen, they're maybe not Trello came in a bunch of other tools and things. They're still amazing. And
Yes.
they're not the best. It's not, I love the product. I used it years and years ago. It's not the best product in the market, but they got raving fan customers. They make a
Yep.
ton of money on it. They were bottom up growth from day one, didn't care about top line, was just slow grow. They invested smart along the way. It's a really great story. Founders should go find, I'm sure there's tons of talks and there may even be a book or two about it somewhere floating around. It's a worthwhile venture to find out how they did it because
It is.
that is definitely a more thoughtful approach to building these companies. And I know tech moves really fast. So I understand the need for urgency to get these things to market, but it's not sustainable and people are in a hurry. Usually the worst decision is one made in a hurry. So
Yeah.
that's a rule I was indoctrinated with really early from a really amazing CEO of the manufacturing companies I worked for. He said it really early on. If somebody has to make a decision, if I need to answer right now, the answer is no. People should take that same approach to building. Like if it needs to be done in a hurry, it's not going to be done. Like if we can do it methodically and think through it and invest the time to understand why we're making the decisions and use profit first approach, then it'll be a healthy company.
Very different. And I love it. A lot of the things that you're talking about are very counterintuitive, counter to the industry, bootstrapping, not taking funding, profitability, finding the micro business inside the business. It's not a problem of resources, it's a problem of resourcefulness. It's figuring out how do I take what I
I'm
have
stealing that.
here and turn that into profit.
Yeah, I'm going to steal that line. That was really
Yeah.
good. People aren't resourceful. They are. They're smart and intelligent. They just have their own wants and needs, right? So I think if they focused on the need and not the want, they'd probably be way more successful. And I feel like the younger the founders too, it's like they have a vision, and I love this. They're so focused on their vision that any deviation doesn't make sense. When they get older, they realize you got to deviate to survive. So
Yes.
it's part of your day to day. You want to be a founder? That's part of it. You're going to
Right.
constantly have hurdles and changes and challenges that don't align with the vision you originally had, and you have to learn how to adopt and make those things part of your environment. World changes really fast. It's changing faster
Yes.
now than ever. And if you're going to be a tech founder, you have to even further adopt that. Who knows who's going to win this AI race? People are building products and propping huge companies up on the backs of these tools. What if they disappear tomorrow? Are they ready
Right.
for that? I see all these companies literally built on ChatGPT's model, and that's great. And what if ChatGPT isn't the winning horse for AI?
Right.
And they're hemorrhaging money. That's not a sustainable, it's
Right.
not a
They're in
sustainable
trouble.
business model to today. So people need to be ready for change. Do it really quick. Be ready to do that uncomfortably first day. And that might mean, like I said, selling an ebook you didn't want to do. That's not the business side. I want to build my software. And I love those guys because they're laser focused on what they want to build and they have real vision and they'll fight you for it. Those are the people I invest in, right?
I love that. Yeah. Scrappy.
If you're ready to fight me, somebody's bringing capital and you're like, I don't even want your capital then if we're not going to do it my way. I love that. That that's a
That's
great,
commitment.
that's a real good founder, right?
Yeah.
Now, then they have to get realistic at some point. Like, can't have it all. But I see that That passion needs to still be there too. People should lead with some passion. I'm not saying turn your passion into your business, but they do have to be passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah. Ready to future proof your company and scale to new heights? Dive into the ultimate resource designed specifically for B2B SaaS founders and C suite executives. Champion Leadership Group gives you an unfair advantage in scaling up revenue and outwitting competitors at every step. Imagine solving your biggest scaling headaches and hitting 5, 10, 20 million ARR and beyond. We take away the guesswork and the grunt work and replace it with framework by supporting you with our on-demand fractional C-suite team, a powerful operating system built into software, and a thriving community of fellow scaling founders. That's how we make it happen. If you're stuck at your current revenue level, this is your ticket out. Feel like your company is the world's best kept secret? We amplify your success. And hey, if you're already crushing it, a lot of our founders are, but maybe you're too busy to breathe, and we've got you. We'll free up 20% of your time in the first month. Now is the time to upgrade from traction to scale. If you're ready to work smarter and not just grind harder, schedule a 10-minute growth brainstorm. It's free and will pinpoint the number one thing holding back revenue. Visit championleadership.com. It's where leaders evolve and companies transform. So some people, I think, just call out the myth in the industry. One is that if you're bootstrapped, then you're not serious. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. That you can't have a life and build a business. So just like you were talking about lifestyle design, that you can't build an empire and have a life. I think that's a complete myth.
That's a huge myth.
Yeah. So what's your take on that? Yeah, I love what you're doing now and just that thought process. Yeah, how did you get there and what's your take?
So everyone's going to beat me up for saying this. I think because I'm also guilty, right? I burned and churned as much as the next guy. But I think the mindset needs a change. The rise and grind mentality should be rise in mind. People should slow down and think, take a deep breath before we jump into this. There's more to it than building a successful company. People want the notoriety of it. I get it. You will sacrifice everything you have along the way, health, relationships, friendships, for the sake of success. And then when you get there, everything's going to be about fixing what you just destroyed. So I'm a non-role model for that. I did the same thing. I sacrificed everything up front to be successful. Now I'm in a different position in life now to be able to build things the way they should be built. But if I could just sit myself down 20 years ago and say, you don't have to do it this way, I probably wouldn't even listen to myself. I was so narrow-minded that I had to burn and churn to get there. It's not true. It just isn't true. You can take time and be methodical. And when you have passion and a purpose to build things, I would more buy from a company that has a much bigger why than I would a company who's like profit over passion, right? So people will work for you more.
Yes.
People will go to bat for those companies first. If you try to raise capital, it's so much easier when there's a purpose and passion behind the organization. And if you build it to adapt to the lifestyle you want in the future up front, you don't end up in the situation where you have a job again. Because most people are like, oh, I can't wait to quit my job. I'm like, you sure? Job is great.
Right.
You can turn it off on Friday and go home and do whatever you got to do and have fun. And entrepreneur, like this world is not about not working. That's for sure. It's 18-hour a day. Like you never get to turn it off. So I think there's a point where if you build something that intersects really well with the way you want to live, it's a great business to build. If you turn it into, and I have friends who have built companies where it's 100% of their effort, they cannot get unplugged from it. Right. So now vacation, they don't get one. Travel, they're like, I can't leave. And I hate to say this because doctors are needed. I have doctor friends who are like, I can't go on vacation. It's 100% of me.
Right.
If I'm not there, I don't make any money. So I'm working 7 days a week and that's never going to stop until I stack up enough money to retire at some point. So I'm not saying
Yeah.
that we don't want those professions, but I am saying think about what you're building and maybe step back and find out what the valuation is of what you're building. I had a friend in the insurance industry. He spent the better part of 20 years building an insurance mecca, like really built it up. Ended up buying a bunch of branches of one of these really well-known insurance companies. The valuation is like 2x. So when you build this thing up and you build this empire, it's great. But when you go to sell it, what's the value? Like you're
Yeah.
going to get 2 years of profit that they're going to give you to sell the whole thing. It's crazy. Now,
Yeah.
going into it young, you don't know, right? You just jump in. But I think people do need to think about what they're building longer term. And I'm not saying think from the exit, but you have to. Whether you're going to exit or be an operator forever, think from the end. Does it fit the lifestyle I want to live in the future? Am I going to be working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, maintaining this thing? Is that what I really want to do for a living? What's the valuation of it at the end? Those are things that if I'm coaching a startup, especially young founders, that's a lot of the discussion point up front. Is, are you sure this is what
Yeah.
you want to be into? Like, do you know the commitment you're signing up for and what it really takes? Because they're like, I can't wait. Like, I'm working my job. I'm side hustling, like you said. I'm investing in my company. But Friday, 5 p.m., I go home, Netflix is on, and the weekends are mine. It's like, that ends when you can't wait to leave your comfort zone. You might want to rethink it. So those are the
Yeah.
things. I believe that there's definitely a balance out there if people approach it the right way and take the time to think through what they're actually building. So my advice would just be do that up front. Don't do it 6 years into it and you're looking back like, man, what did I get myself into? I've had a couple of those exits. So I'm speaking from experience. I hope people don't end up in that same situation.
I have as well. I end up successfully stuck. So doing well, but built a business that I didn't like. This is not what I thought I was signing up for. I don't want to do this anymore. But then I can't stop because of investors, because of this and that. And if I stop, then the whole thing falls apart. So really, I think it's so important just thinking about that early on.
So is that how you ended up doing this? Because this is awesome. To be honest, it's not something I really was thinking, hey, let me go on podcasts and talk to people. But so this all started when I had my last company and I started doing podcasts more specifically to promote the company. And now that company sold and I went, I like meeting people. It's great talking about these things. I hope we make impact and really change the conversation and the tone of what's happening for young entrepreneurs and also founders that are really fighting through the battle every day. I hope I can make an impact. Is that kind of what happened for you?
Yes, very much so. And a similar background, I built 5 companies, have sold 4, still run one SaaS company today or a fintech on the business side of healthcare, and then run an accelerator specifically for B2B SaaS founders, 1 to 10 million, and help them grow, scale, and exit. But do that in a smart way. Do that where we're not raising crazy amounts of money, and really what we call build a future-proof business, build something that is sustainable, and do that where it does support lifestyle, what we call a lifestyle empire. So those
That's
things are
great.
not mutually exclusive. You can build something amazing and have an amazing life, and have the option. Maybe you want to exit, maybe you don't. I had a founder a few weeks ago. I was like, do I have to sell? No. Run it for as long as you want to do it. If you love it,
Yeah.
why? And there's nothing that says you have to exit or take money. Do what you love and
It's
then build it so you have that option.
It's great though. So when I was saying this earlier, I think it's so important that people actually like the fact that you've exited 4 times. I don't know a lot of people that exit more than once or twice. You get past that second one or third one, the lessons learned are massive. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. So the value that people can get from having advisory from people who have successfully exited, not just once, but multiple times, yeah, I really wish something like this existed before. There were companies out there that were advisory, but they're advising massive companies. They're not advising small
Right.
startup environment. There wasn't a lot of, hey, like, let me walk you through this. And they were huge upfront dollars, right? Massive. Hey, it's $25,000 up front to go through these programs. I didn't have that. I really wish I did, because it would have
Me
made,
too.
I would have had such bigger exits than what I bootstrapped my first exits too. They were really poorly done, and I lost a lot of money doing it, right? I didn't know I did. I was super excited to get the money I did for my first ones. And
I
so
didn't know made bad deals until later. I'm
I
looking
know.
back going, "Oh, that's what was going on behind the scenes."
It crushed it. Yeah, but lessons learned. So it won't happen
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
But I
I
really
call
wish
it paying
people would.
thumbtacks.
Yeah.
Keith Cunningham, as he
Yeah.
calls
No,
it.
I
Yeah,
call it an expensive
pay the
education.
thumbtacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get educated in one way or the other.
Yeah.
Well,
I
that's
paid
way
on
more
the back end
expensive
of education.
experience.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I really wish I wish this environment, and now there's just so much information now. It's information overload. It's great, but it's also really hard to sift through to get
Yes.
the right bits that matter to your company. So having hands-on with people that have done it, these mastermind groups and groups that are led by people that have had great exits, it's awesome. I would, and I'm even joining them now, personally, because I don't need it, but I love them. I love seeing the other sides of it, and so I feel like it's still viable even for me personally. And
Yeah.
I make it a pact with myself every year to invest more in being around those people, more in environments where I can see how they're doing things too. I've learned so much from other founders now. So being in those groups have been one of the best investments I've ever made in
Without
general
a
terms.
doubt.
Yeah. Besides, you can listen to ebooks and stuff, and you can read books and go to these different sessions. But when it's a mastermind groups that have value like that, it's just unbelievable what you find in those and the people you meet.
That is so worth it. It's the people and the experiences and what's working, but it's just the relationships. And the people I'm around make me better. And that's what I love. And not just better in business. That's important, but a better person,
Yeah.
a better father, a better husband, just a better human, a better boss.
I that's one I want to work on. I want to be a better boss too, and be a better employee, like even to my wife. I think serving is important now, especially for me, being purpose led, having the opportunity to build something the way I want to, because I have had to go through it the wrong way so many times. It's really important to be able to serve all of those around you. And the fact that everyone around me has leveled me up so much, I'm hopeful. And again, the reason why I'm doing these podcasts more recently, I'm hopeful to make impact for everybody else too, because it just continues to accelerate all of the things around me. So lifting
Excellent.
all of the people up has been really key part. And I'm just trying to be a better version of myself along the way. So
I'm with you there. Well, what is your purpose? We've talked about that. And what do you want to do? What is the big purpose? Let's say the next 10 years. Where do you see yourself? What does that look like?
I think I'm more recently going back to my roots. So I didn't grow up in a good scenario. I had didn't, and I think everybody has their kind of story of their background. Mine was rough. I grew up in a rough neighborhood. I lived in a car for a short period of time. Like, I had to go through some hurdles. And I think now I'm looking back at that and how I can impact that environment. So I've partnered with some folks to help bring affordable housing to market. I'm trying to help crowdfund some of those applications so that people can not only be in housing situations, but also end up being the owners of those properties through real estate investment. I am trying to help small and medium business with credit card processing fees, and more specifically doing that without making impact to their day-to-day business, because it was one that almost took one of my companies out. It was a really frustrating scenario for me, and I see it becoming more and more predatory in terms of pricing. So it was one
Yeah.
that I said, look, I have the knowledge base, I have the tools, maybe I can make an impact and do so in a non-paid environment where it's really just performance based. So it's a really unique, these are things and challenges I'm trying to focus energy on, and I'm doing it in a way that doesn't turn me into an employee. So
Yes.
I'm trying to have that balance of I can still travel. I love travel. I love travel and work. I especially love working in Europe on their time zone for the US. It's great. I can have my day to myself, and then midday I have to go to work, which is great. So I think in general, those are some of the challenges I'm working on, but I can see it really targeting the things that impacted me along the way where I feel like I can help. And I think there's some other charitable organizations that I'm trying to build. I really struggle giving money to charities because of the cost structure of operating charities. So there's another company that I'm focused on to try to reduce all of the expense to almost nothing to start and operate a charity. So using
That's
machine
cool.
learning and AI, I have some charities that I want to give to that I just said, when you look at Charity Navigator and you see some of the deficiencies and how they operate, I just I think there's a better way. So of course, here I am again, like, here's a problem. But these are different kind of problems. Like before it was like, hey, here's a problem. I can make a ton of money doing that. And now
Yeah.
it's more, here's a problem that could impact society or impact the things I struggled with growing up. So I feel like those are the things I've been really laser focused on. And I have other charities that I really want to build. And I struggled because I saw the cost structure and how difficult it is to get one off the ground.
Yeah.
So I see that as something I could fix. So those are things that I'm really focused on. One is, and I think the other piece was housing in general is a massive problem, not one that I can fix single handedly, but I feel like there are definitely solutions to these problems. So it's one that I'm really focused on right now. One on the lending side with a company called lenders.co, and another one where we're trying to raise capital in a Reg A environment, which we're not approved for yet, but we're getting there, where we can democratize real estate investing for affordable rental properties. And we're turning the renters into real estate investors. So it's something where they end up owning the property at the end of it and actually have a mortgage, where I think this is going to become a bigger and bigger hurdle with credit. So I think these are the ones that I'm really focused on right now.
That's very cool. How does that work? The two sides, the lenders and the investment, prop
So,
tech.
so the first issue is there's like 6 million affordable houses that are missing. And
Yep.
PE firms came in, and you're seeing it now. They're just dumping money into buying up all the rentals. So there's really I don't see an end to this crazy hike of continuous rents that people just can't afford.
Yeah.
On top of that, the credit crunch is even worse, right? People's credit. I think the US has a massive credit crisis where people can't even get a mortgage. So those two things combined don't add up to people having affordable housing ever. So my goal was initially, well, what if we crowdfunded real estate development? And there's another hurdle. Like, you crowdfund, it takes forever to find these houses, renovate them. You're fighting against PE firms who are also buying the same properties,
Yeah.
right? So we took a different tact and invested in a panel manufacturing company here in Florida, and we're going to build the properties in a low cost environment. So we found an amazing partner that is going to help us build these properties really low cost. And we went to opportunity zones in different states who are having major crisis with housing and said, you have land, give us a tax abatement. We'll go build properties there. We'll maintain a certain price. Now, I wouldn't call it rent control, but it's very similar. And we'll build these affordable houses. And in doing that, you make significant money as a real estate investor doing that, right? You're getting
Sure.
subsidized land, you're getting subsidized tax abatements. So what if I took that and turned it into a crowdfunding application? Anyone could invest $100 to help build affordable housing. You're going to get a lot of people that want to do that. So then,
Absolutely.
so we're going to take their deposits and part of their rent and put it in these funds to help continue to propagate out the building of more properties. And they get a massive return on that investment. So their deposit, which would just sit in an account and make nothing, can't even keep up with an inflation, could make, again, these are hopeful numbers, but 15 or 20% a year on their deposit. That's significant. So
Yes.
the fact that at the end of it, they could end up with a deposit for the home gives you a totally different approach, and paying them in addition to paying a tenant to effectively pay their rent on time and maintain the property in good health. It also reduces the expenses, which makes it more profitable, which in turn makes their money have more value. So giving them kickbacks to do that as well then gives them more money to invest in being their own, owning the home longer term. The problem is their credit. So, hey, I have the money now for the deposit on this home, but I can't break through. So we had to be the lender too. So it's both sides. One is getting them on the property ladder. Two is getting them to a point where we can actually fund them to then own that property long term, and doing the same. It's crowdfunding. So letting other people get the beneficiary of a lower rate, but a sustainable one. So it's a really unique idea and concept, and we have an amazing team working on it. We're hopeful to announce some partnerships here shortly to continue this and actually bring it to life really quickly. And the goal is to build 1 million houses, which is crazy, but
I love it.
But it's achievable. With the money, especially right now, trying to build with money from banks, it's impossible. Using panel kits to build homes, you get these houses up in 5 days versus 60. So there's a bunch of efficiency gains that we think we can get there quicker. So that's really the goal of one of the companies that we're building. And I have some really great partners that have done it successfully, have been in the real estate market for a long time. They've also been in the lending space for a very long time and have pretty much made a name for themselves there. So that can't talk about it yet. I can't say the company name yet, but I'm hopeful to get it out there soon, because the faster we can get this to market, the more we can start putting people in houses, and maintaining the pricing is, I think, the key. Again, the problem was I didn't have that opportunity younger. I really wish I would have had that opportunity to get on the property ladder at a much younger age and actually own a home instead of rent, and that mentality forever. So that's really that's the target for the company.
That's outstanding. I love the vision behind that. And there's so much, you've got both sides covered. Every single piece of that, there is profit built in, and there's money. This is not just a wish, but then you've got just a huge give back as well. So it's a win for everybody, and the purpose behind it is fantastic.
Yeah.
So
And
it's an awesome vision.
mission-driven real estate investing is really the direction we're going to head. I think anybody can get behind that, and anybody with
Yes.
$100 can invest in it. They will, especially at 15% returns. So I mean, we're not doing this for free either, right? So there's still a little hint of profit in there, and I think there's enough in it. Looking at real estate investment longer term, especially rentals like this, when you can build it low cost and you can maintain it, it's an amazing investment. So democratizing that for anybody to invest in, including making the tenant a part of it, it'd be a game changer. So we're hopeful to get that launched soon.
Outstanding. Where can people learn more about you online?
You can visit my website personally. It's jeremylessaris.com. I'm on LinkedIn.
Make sure and link that in the show notes for sure.
Couple other websites. Payment Brokers is my more recent venture, so it's paymentbrokers.com. But me personally, jeremylessaris.com.
Excellent. And we'll link both of those in the site, as well as some of those. You have multiple things that are ongoing right now. Really excited about that. So we'll link all of those if you guys want to know what Jeremy is up to. And then as more comes out on the real estate, depending on when the episode drops, we may have that in there as well.
That'd be great.
So everybody should be taking a look at that. Jeremy, it's great having you on the show. Thanks for being on SaaS Fuel.
It's great to hang out today.
Thanks again, Jeremy, for coming on the show and sharing your journey, insights, and vision for the future. You can learn more about Jeremy at jeremylessaris.com and his company, paymentbrokers.com. It will lower your card processing rates without the need to change anything or do anything different. Zero disruption and more money in your pocket. That's pretty good. Be sure and check him out on social as well. All links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com, including links to both of those sites. And also be sure and check out our YouTube channel. Full video episodes, video shorts, training, lots of things on there, some outtakes, lots of great stuff. So go check that out. Thought leaders share. I'll bet you're one because you're listening. Well, this episode combines vision with practical action. Share it with someone who loves to learn and stretch the boundaries, but loves actionable ideas and common sense. Everyone who shares this week gets a brainstorm buzzer. It sounds off whenever your ideas surpass the brilliant threshold and drift into what are we even talking about territory. Keeps meetings productive and your feet firmly on the ground. Join us Thursday on our SaaS Fuel Expert Series, where my guest is Gary Harpst. Gary led Solomon Software for 20 plus years to a big exit, and he now runs a company called Lead First. We'll talk about leadership, purpose, and also about his new book, Built to Beat Chaos. And next Tuesday, we have founder Baird Hall, co-founder of Turnkey. Don't want to pour revenue into a leaky bucket? We will be talking about how to plug those holes and make churn a non-issue. Turnkey is the key to churn. So we'll be talking all about churn and how to keep revenue in your company. So I will see you next time. And as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.